artificial limbs and legs and everything that gives hope to a patient that he's not going to lose one of his parts and he's going to have something instead to help him to live a normal life. In today's episode, we are joined with Dr. Amir Ali. He's Assistant Professor of Mechanical Engineering, and we're going to talk to him about these artificial body parts. Hello, sir, and welcome to our show.
Thank you so much. With pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a very interesting topic because, like what Dina has mentioned, it gives a lot of hope to a lot of people. So,
right.
You can describe to us what's the technology behind this? Is it something fixed, or is it even advanced beyond this?
Right. This is totally agree with you. Like, this is such a new gadgets, new technology coming for not only the helping the amputees guys or paralyzed peoples, but also it could be the cutting edge research to helping the regular peoples to be able to just controlling anything just by their mind, just by their thoughts. So basically, if we need to understand how such a thing or gadget like this start to work or to pop up in the future, we have to basically return back a little bit to some sciences like neuroscience and electrophysiology. And this is basically what we are doing here in the lab and the university. We are a big research team working at such a thing like this just to understand the brain behavior, how it starts to this kind of nervous system, neurons start to firing. How can we understand the mapping for such a thing like this? So let me describe for you something in detail a little bit. If we start from scratch, once you need to move your hand or to twist your wrist, playing pianos, doing all the regular stuff daily, basically your brain starts to send a signal. It's electromechanical or electrical signal actually, delivered to the muscles, order it to be moved to do whatever you need, to intend to move your hand, twist your wrist, doing all this through the nervous system, through the axons and all that. Imagine that the hand or the cuff, the limb is not existing anymore, is severed. So such a thing like this doesn't mean that your brain doesn't deliver the message. However, there is no one there to accept or to obey to the orders. What we are doing here in this kind of science, we are doing robotic arm, starting from scratch, from the mechanics, kinematics, doing all this tons of research, which is built since 10, 20 years ago. And the key issue here, not the mechanics itself. The key issue becomes how can we couple and we merge it with the nervous system for the human body, how the immunity of the body cannot reject such a material or sensing probes to be invasive inside the tissues. So something like this, since 20 years ago, we thought as a scientist, the main important thing is the mechanics itself, the robotic arm itself. So we are working in separate islands. We are dealing with such a mechanics and doing such a things without caring and paying attention ever to the human nature and how the brain starts to fire these neurons. And lately, like since 5 years ago, this technology or this understanding for the situation started to pop up in a different way, which is the main important thing now is the sensing which nerve corresponding to which fiber in this kind of muscle to be able to move it or to give it such an electric signal, just as I mentioned before. And by using a very high technique, ultra-sensitive optical sensor, and this is the key issue right now. This is the cutting edge research comparing to our peers since 20 years ago. We pay attention nowadays for replacing what our peers since a long time by replacing putting electrodes inside or in underneath the skin. This kind of electrodes had a lot of problematic issues with the patient itself, and something like that we need to make like repetition surgeries every 6 months. You have to do such a repair or maintenance for such a thing like that. But what we figured out in our lab and our as a research community between our university and our collaborative all over the globe in the United States, in Germany as well, we need to replace this kind of electronics, electrodes, something very speed in sending and receiving the data. Exactly like the internet. Imagine that you are sending and receiving emails all the days.
From the brains to...
Exactly. So we are relying on the fastest entity all over the universe, all the scientists agree with it, which is the light.
Light.
The photon. The speed of the photons up to 190,000 miles per second. So something really fast like this, we start to rely to it to get and detect the message delivered from the brain to the corresponding mechanical part right now existing for the patient. And by delivering back and forth and vice versa, you can touch using your prosthetic hand
And feel.
and feel it delivered to the brain itself. And this is not only for the guys who are amputated or become paralyzed, but it could help also for detecting and predicting diseases like epilepsy, the guys who has a seizure in the brain, all this kind of problematic issues with the brain itself. We can start to predict something and start to diagnose and make a treatment for the future for this technology.
Dr. Ali, of course you're talking about the scientific part, but as for the patient, it will be a little bit awkward because he suddenly finds a weird thing in his body, and how he should cope with such a thing.
Right, this is a really amazing question. Actually, what we are doing so far in the current stage, we are making what's called in the science a proof of concept. So once the proof of concept starts to succeed, so now we have the theory and the experiment, both are coupled together and moving in the proper way, in the right way. In this situation, we have like volunteers to start couple such a really mechanical system and see how is this kind of communication in the reality between their machine, their hand, their mind, filling the gap between mind and the machine. And it's a really sophisticated problem because your brain is different than yours, different than mine for solving the same issue. So for something like that, we need to make what's called a calibration process and make a trial errors versions of recording and receiving the data back and forth and re-modify what we did in the phase, which is the proof of concept right now. And that's really helpful for you have in your community or for the research community collaborative all over the globe. So basically, here in the university, in my lab, we have a collaboration with Applied Physics Laboratory in Johns Hopkins University in the United States and in Maxwell, in the Maxwell Institute, Planck Maxwell Institute in Germany. So all this kind of merging together, we can end up with a volunteer, and at the end of the day, this kind of science fiction becomes nowadays comes through the reality, except its cost. You have to really have a huge amount of funds to serve such a technology like this, because lately, as much as I know from the community scientists, the only prosthetic hand could cost up to 50,000 grand dollars, American dollars. So something like that, it's really huge. And no one can serve easy to have something like this.
Yes, this is very true. And part of the trend today, as we're almost on the era of a fourth industrial revolution, and I think, you know, neurotechnology and this part of robotics is part of this, you know,
Right.
Advancement, not only on human bodies, but also on
Right.
robotics too.
Right, exactly. As I mentioned before, this technology could help also the guys who are regular and they need to chill out and doing the regular stuff. Actually, something like that I would like to mention clearly. Once you are chatting with someone through the internet deliver and receive everything, all kinds of data, except two parts. You cannot sense or touch someone through the screen,
Or smell.
and you cannot smell any signals coming towards the internet.
Yes.
By this technology, imagine that we have exoskeleton robotic arm, and you can't control this exoskeleton robotic arm just by your thoughts.
Yes.
Imagine that you have this glove or the haptic interface glove in Egypt and your friend in the United States, and you need
You're
to make
shaking
handshaking. Just by doing something like that, I have the haptic interface in Egypt and another robotic arm in the States. Now I can send and receive the data just by my thought. Exactly, it will pretend with the same direction as did it for the amputees. And also for the smelling issue, this technology, which is the optical fibers and the optical sensing devices, this is another project that we do care a lot about it right now here in the university with our collaboratives through
Sending
United
smell
States.
through the internet.
Lately, we are thinking about camera. This camera could be record video and the smelling effect. So imagine the whole, like any movies or something like that, you have a smelling effect. It becomes really sense of humor start to pop up in the movies, and it's a little bit new technicality. Maybe you need to test such a tester through the any kind of channels through the internet.
Interesting.
Dr. Ali, what you're saying is really because
Yes.
technology now is a freaking
Yes.
method, whether to help or to destroy. So you're talking about the artificial parts of the body and how it could reach to it allows the person even to feel with your artificial
Right.
part. So one day that means we will have robots replacing human beings.
This is something like I need to clarify that since 20 years ago, once we start watching all the robotics stuff through the movies, we thought about this is science fiction, and nowadays the dreams come true.
Yeah.
So what we have right now, we can claim that we have a really good passion from the scientists all over the globe to merge all these ideas together to make something like that. But at the end of the day, the key issue that everything is still under our control, the human control. Because if you compare between the robotic system itself and the human body, no, there's no even comparison between both. There's tons of things we have no idea how it's running, how it moves, and that's why we have such a hypotheses, how we have such a theories, and once the experiment, the proof of concept tells us, okay, it could be, so we put such an estimation, we start to publish this work in conferences, trying to say, okay, am I wrong? Am I doing something wrong by publication in journals, and all that merging together in one pot? At the end of the day, sky is the limit. So maybe yes, but what I'm really totally sure about, that the machine learning cannot be more intelligent than the human brain.
Yes, of course. And I'd like to ask you about the cost effectiveness of such advanced technology. When would it become within the affordability of people who has issues?
For the cost, right?
Yes.
You know, the science is something really important issue in your life, and we have to pay for it. You have to work under supervision for not only technicality, you need the sponsors. And this is something here, like I got my PhD from the United States, and once I returned back home, I figured out the university here, it's open its arms, please support us with the new idea. No one here says, okay, this is going to make it really hard or cost a lot of money. I get supported with a good fund from this university so far, and we are doing a lab here really comparable to my lab there in the university in the United States in Texas Tech. All this equipment becomes really up to date, more than what we had there actually. But if we have like community like what we have here in the university, working so hard like years, all of us starting from the housekeeper till the upper manager has exactly a specific function running in a proper way, at the end of the day the delivery becomes really easy to deliver and to absorb. So to make our community, our humanity in such a better way, you have to keep working with the industrial system. So this is something all the universities in the United States and Germany are doing. Professor come with the idea, make sure it works. There's an industry or factory start to spend such a huge amount of money. Maybe it will work, maybe it not. So there's no guarantee. But once it works, now the copyright becomes sharing between the university, the doctors, and the industry. Now you can sell it and you can gain your money. It's investment. Yes. So this is something you have here, like in Egypt, you have to rethinking about something like that.
Okay, actually, because we ran out of time, I want to ask you, this artificial body parts and this high technology, it's of course for it is now only for a certain level in the society.
Right.
People who can afford it. What about the other people who are in need of this?
That's true, and it's really costly technology. And nowadays in Egypt, in Germany, they have some communities like for charity. They have to merge together to support it for the guys who are really necessary, need something like that. It is not something anyone can buy, but this is part of the challenges and the problems that we need to tackle in the future. How can we make it affordable with a very simple amount of money within a
This is
couple of
going to
hundreds?
be the challenge. Dr. Amir Ali, Assistant Professor of Mechanical Engineering, I'd like to thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much. With pleasure.
Thank you, sir. And now we are moving to a quick break, so please stay tuned.